God, doesn't the theme song just make you guys want to boogie? Don't you want to boogie with that theme song? Come on. It's a boogie-worthy theme song. It makes you want to boogie. Who says boogie? Nobody. I say it. What's going on, friends? Oh my God, good to see you again. Oh, I'm feeling sassy and alive, everybody. Sassy and alive. We got that Sag full moon working us on the other side. Fire. Fire is what the Sag moon brings. Shaka chaka. It goes like that. Okay. Rahima's River. What's up? Which Rahima is that? Is that Rahima? Tell me which Rahima you are. And who is Facebook user? Is that Ray? Is that you, Ray? I can't tell who Facebook user is, although I really just enjoy calling you Facebook user. That's a ton of fun. Well, I'm happy to see everybody. Hello, hello. It's Wednesday again. Do you ever just, Elisar, what's up, girl? Do you guys ever feel like just time is just fucking clicking along, just rolling over, just all of a sudden it's Wednesday again? Why am my Facebook user so weird? I agree. Who is it, Facebook user? Write your name in the chat. I can't see you. This is how people type, with pause. Whenever I do the typing gesture, I always do it as if I'm like a panda. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's talk about forgiveness. Okay, it's Ray. What's up, Ray? How you doing? What's up, girl? All right, it's good to see you guys. I'm so happy to be here. This is where I get to teach, but also be insane. I give myself so much permission to just be a maniac on these things. Not that I'm not a maniac other places I teach. You guys know me. But it's more fun. There's more freedom here. It's the internet. We do what we want. It's 11 people. Good to see you guys. It's my magic number. I'm very excited. Okay, let's talk. Forgiveness and acceptance. My word. Like most things. Hello. Doc Bill is here. What's up? The party can start, bitches, because Doc Bill has arrived with his energy. It's here. Jamie Vega in the house. All the party people are here. Jennifer Garcia. I don't know how we've been doing this without you this whole time. It's just been an empty chasm, just a black vacant void we've all been falling into, spiraling into sadness without you. Margaret McCarahan from across the fucking pond, all the way over in wherever the hell you are. Do you know I can never keep it straight? Are you in? Don't tell me. I like to pretend. I like to just not know. Is it Australia? Are you a Kiwi? Are you in London? I don't know. Do you sound Australian, but you live in China? I don't know. I want to keep it a mystery. I do know. You've told me 900 times, but I have no memory. You guys, open head and ajna and lots of spiritual work makes a flaky Katie. Flakiness isn't a bad thing. Now, Sacramento in the hizzy. Sacramento in the hizzy. Ben Ismail representing Sacramento. I wonder, is Christina here tonight? Because then we would have a lot of Sacramento up in the building, up in the virtual space. All right. Thank you for loving my no memory. All right, we're going to talk about stuff now. I swear to God. Forgiveness. 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 Marriage is what brings us together today. It's going to be a spicy one. Forgiveness and acceptance. Here we go. There's so much to say about it. It's actually a very deep thing to talk about. You know, one of the things that used to annoy me the most when I was like starting off in 12-step recovery and like dealing with this whole spirituality idea and trying to be a person who was kind and trying to learn about opening my heart and trying to be forgiving, trying to forgive some bitches. And believe me, I had some people to forgive because people did some fucked up shit to the K to the Roo. They really did at times when, like, you know, bad shit shouldn't happen to anybody. So I have had every kind of forgiveness work to do. Resentment requires forgiveness. Trauma work requires forgiveness. Abandonment, judgment, being bullied by your mom. I mean, come on. sexual abuse, dad being unavailable and alcoholic. I mean, what did I not have to forgive? I've had to do every kind of goddamn forgiveness you have to do. And in the first stages of forgiveness, right, there is very understandably, usually, a lot of resistance to forgiving. When somebody hurts us or breaks our heart, right, or abandons us or just can't be there for us in the way that we need, or fails us in some way, it's so tempting to stay in righteous anger, to stay in judgment, to stay in separation from that person or that institution. You could be resentful of and not forgiving of an institution, right? Or a family, or a part of a family, or a group of people, whatever it might be. Okay. You could resent your dog and be not in forgiveness of your dog, right? What is so what I used to get irritated by, to go back to that idea, is people would say to me, like, your dad, they'd say, he did the best he could with the tools he had at the time. And I'd be like, well, it wasn't good enough and his tools sucked. So fuck off. I never understood how people wanted me to just, it was like, people think that you can give a mental idea to an injured person and that person could take that idea into their mind and then go, oh, you're right, I forgive them. It wasn't actual forgiveness for me for a long time, because what it was I was doing that exact thing. I really wanted to forgive because I had been taught, and I did believe that if I forgave these people, I wouldn't suffer anymore at the hands of their misbehavior. Now, that was a fact that was true, and that is a fact that is true. When people harm us and we can't forgive them, we suffer. Yes, they suffer as well because we cut them off. So sometimes people don't want to be cut out of your heart and out of your life. And so they suffer as a result of you not forgiving them. But more than them suffering, it's you who suffers. It was me suffering because a man abused my body when I was a baby, and I was holding rage and resentment and anger at him. Does that mean that that man should have ever done that thing to my baby body? Of course not. And this is where forgiveness starts to become a really interesting and tricky and dynamic and interesting topic, is that we often think, well, I don't want to forgive that person because then they'll think it's okay to do those things. Or I don't want to forgive that person because then maybe they'll hurt someone else. Or I don't want to forgive that person because I don't want to let them off the hook. As if keeping them on the punishment hook somehow makes the wrong they did to you more right. It doesn't, in fact, make the wrong they did to you more right when you keep them on the hook. All it does is it makes you right. So let's say somebody does something wrong to you, and it's actually wrong. It was mean, it was heartless, it was cruel, and it hurt you badly. It broke your fucking heart in half for no fucking reason. It was just shitty. Now you have a broken heart, so you create separation between them and you punish them by not forgiving them. You think like, fuck them, I'm not forgiving them. Now you have the wall of the injury and you have the wall of the not forgiving them. Both of those walls live on your heart. When we have walls of defense up around the outside edges of our hearts, we have hard-heartedness. When we have hard-heartedness, we suffer. What is the single best way to be disconnected from spirit, source, God, consciousness, the universe, the interconnected web of light that brings all people together? Hard-heartedness. Hard-heartedness, aka walled up hearts, aka defenses that are up in front of the heart, that is the literal best, most effective way to experience separation between yourself and the divine. Now, you might ask yourself, what's the big deal about being separated between myself and the divine? Who gives a fuck? I didn't ask for a relationship with the divine. Or y'all are spiritual people, so you don't think that way, I'm sure. But just to make the point about the mechanics of how this whole thing works. You could even say, well, here's like a more like positive version of that. I have a relationship with the divine, but that doesn't mean I have to forgive my abuser. Why would I forgive my abuser who abused me when I was 6, when me and God are tight, or me and the universe are tight, or I have conscious awareness? I feel open and connected to people. I love people perfectly well. Thank you very much. I'm good at my job. I care about my family. Why do I have to forgive this fucking clown? Right? Again, the answer is you get to have more love in your heart, more connection with the other people in your life, more intimacy with the divine, more peace, more joy, more freedom, more abundance, more fluidity when you forgive Clowny McGee over here from your childhood. Because believe it or not, that little tiny wall, let's say you only have one person you haven't forgiven, that little wall you have up against that person keeps you from receiving more in your life. I find, man, spirit, the universe, consciousness, it's endlessly interesting because we never really know, given, like, depending on the specific individual at hand, we don't know what your lack of forgiveness for Clowny McGee in your childhood, that's his name now, is blocking you from receiving today. I have had the most interesting shit open up and come into my life as a result of doing forgiveness work for people that I never would have thought were connected. In other words, sometimes I've done forgiveness work, and I promise in a minute here, we're going to get into the mechanics of how we do it. Sometimes I've done forgiveness work and I just have a big crying festival of like releasing all the anger I've been holding or all the resistance to forgiving them. Resisting forgiving somebody takes a lot of energy. Excuse me, it's not conscious energy necessarily, but it takes a lot of energy to hold a wall up in front of your heart. It's actually like work, draining, exhausting work. So sometimes, so sorry for my cough. Sometimes when you forgive someone, what you get out of it is this huge release of the exhaustion energy that it's been taking to not forgive them. And then you just feel lighter and freer. And that's plenty of a reason to do it. Sometimes I've done forgiveness work and I've had like huge amounts of money show up in my life, like abundant flows that come out of nowhere. Sometimes I've done forgiveness work and all of a sudden somebody I lost touch with years before contacts me out of nowhere on Facebook or something, and I have like a new friendship. Sometimes I do forgiveness work and I sleep better at night. Sometimes I've done forgiveness work and my digestion starts to work better. Because remember, body, mind, soul, spirit, all one energy. It's all one thing. There is no separation. This old religious idea that says there's you and then there's God, and then there's these priest people who can talk to the God for you because they're all separate. That's a big fat lie. And when we're doing energy healing work, what we're doing is just dissipating all of the layers of defense and walls on our hearts that keep each of us individually from being able to be the direct source of all the God light you could ever want. There is no separation between you and the divine, except for the walls you build. And how do you build those walls? You close your heart and aren't open to love, connection, freedom, truth, mercy, justice. When you're living in the energies from your heart, if you're living from the energies of truth, mercy, justice, freedom, and love, your heart is open. And anywhere in your life that you're not living from those energies or you're in resistance to those energies, that's a little nugget of a place where your heart is a little walled off and you might want to get into looking at it. So my point being on that topic, it's amazing the shit that happens when you start to really forgive and accept and allow. A couple other quickies before we dive into talking about the mechanics of it. I like to think out loud about, let's talk about acceptance for a second. Acceptance is another energy. The reason I wanted to talk about forgiveness and acceptance on the same night and in the same conversation is because similar to forgiveness, when we won't accept something as it is, we create a wall in front of our hearts or in the center of the heart, somewhere in the heart, between ourselves and that thing. Let's say you have a romantic partner, you're married, or you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever you have, and they do a thing that you don't like, and you really, really hate them for doing that thing. Basically, you could say you're not in acceptance of the fact that they do that thing. Let's be very clear about how acceptance works. Just because I come to acceptance about a person doing a thing does not mean I am compatible with them doing that thing. In other words, I might finally realize I'm going to make up a silly example. Let's say I have a partner and they never sweep the kitchen, and I always sweep the kitchen. So now I'm fucking pissed that that damn kitchen only gets swept if I sweep it. So I start to pressure the partner. Can you please sweep the kitchen? And the partner's like, sure, fine, I'll do it. And they never do it. And then we try everything. And I go, what if you sweep the kitchen on Mondays and I'll sweep it on Fridays? And they go, sure. And then they just never sweep the kitchen. Then I go, okay, that didn't work. What if I hire someone to come in and do the sweeping for us? And they go, well, I don't want to pay for that. And I go, cool, then I need you to sweep the kitchen, because I can't be the only one sweeping the fucking kitchen. We both got to share the responsibility of kitchen sweeping here. And they say, sure, sure, sure. And then they never sweep the kitchen. What you could, at a certain point, you're going to want to get into acceptance about the fact that this is a human who doesn't sweep. I've had this happen so much with my own relationship to myself. There are so many things in life that for so many years I thought I had to figure out how to get myself to do these things. Why am I in so much resistance to doing the blah, blah, blah? And then I learned this idea. Certain things I will never be willing to do. I don't want to do them. I'm not going to do them. And it's because it's not for me to do them. I have other shit I am pretty goddamn busy doing. I'm trying to help people heal their trauma, and meet God. I'm trying to tell jokes on stage. These are large endeavors. I don't need to be someone who also likes to sweep the kitchen. I don't need to be someone who is also good at, what's another thing I refuse to do? So I'm not a big clean the floors lady. I don't know why sweeping and floor cleaning is the topic, but it is. So I delegate. I hire people to come in and sweep the floors and clean the kitchen. Now, yes, I can afford to do that. Lucky me. But I have to tell you, people will come back at me about, well, you have money to do that. What if you can't afford it? How are you supposed to delegate? Well, here's the answer to that. You've got to get real with yourself. There was a real moment in time where I realized I want to live in a clean house, and I will not clean to the degree I want it to be clean. So I'm either going to have to make enough money to hire a person to do that, or I need to do it myself. And I had a real sit down with myself, and I got clear with myself by being honest. And I said to myself, I'm not going to clean as consistently as I want, as the house would need in order for it to be as tidy as I like. So I'm going to have to make more money to hire a human. Now, so I did that because for me, and I'm not telling anybody else what to do and what's correct or what you should choose, but I'm telling you that for me, what I got clear on with myself was I like a clean house and I don't like sweeping or vacuuming. So I have to make more money to pay a person to do that. Okay, so that's an example of a place where I came to acceptance about myself. Oh, I don't want to do that, but I am willing to do this other thing. Do I love having to make extra money to pay a person to clean my house? No. Is it the top of my list of things I want to do in my free time? No. But I'm willing to do it because I understand the contract I have with reality. Reality is not a thing you get to tell. You don't get to boss reality around. Reality goes, if you live in a house for a while, dust bunnies will happen. So you either have to like dust bunnies, ignore dust bunnies, pretend dust bunnies don't exist, clean them yourself, or hire a person to clean them. Those are your options with dust bunnies, Katie. And so I don't get to negotiate with reality about those terms. I get to pick one of those options. Okay, so when you get really clear about reality and its terms, there's only a few options left. So you're going to have to fucking pick one. Okay. So what the hell am I talking about? That's an example of acceptance of self. Note, there was no energy healing there. There was no like, what's wrong with me? Why? Where in my childhood did I come to hate sweeping? I'm just not going to sweep. So now, another thing you might come to is I really want to get over my issue with sweeping. I feel you might say to yourself, because you're aware and conscious and honest with yourself, I feel like there's a charge around sweeping. I have some issue with sweeping. And let me talk about myself again, just to use myself as an example. I had this with dishes. I really had some kind of like thing on my heart. And remember, all of this is about the heart. We're about to come back to the mechanics of forgiveness, but it's connected to the mechanics of acceptance. So I'm taking you through acceptance first, and we're coming to it, I promise. I could feel that in my heart, I had some kind of like, fuck you, mom energy around dishes. My resistance to dishes was different from my resistance to like sweeping floors. Sweeping floors is just very manual labory, and I don't love manual labor. I'm not good at it. I don't have a lot of stamina. I'm not that strong. I don't want to get stronger. I don't care. It's just not a priority for me. But the dishes thing was like I was mad at the dishes. I had fucking resentment at the dishes, emotional charge at the dishes. So I did a bunch of energy healing work around my dish issue because there was something there that wasn't about dishes. It was about my mother. And what it was about was in my childhood, my mother was shitty about dishes. And there was a lot of like icky stuff that would happen at the dinner table. She'd be mean to all of us at the dinner table. And then if she cooked, we were expected to do the dishes. And if she didn't cook, we were expected to do the dishes, we being my dad and myself. And there was always this pressure around it and just had this fog around it. So I just had to clear all my anger at her. And I had irrational, doesn't make any sense, not logical, anger at dishes because I had tied my mom oppressing me and having control over me to dishes. So I had to separate those two through the energy work and dissipate the resentment and essentially forgive the dishes. Once I forgave the dishes and was energetically able to separate mom's shitty behavior from dishes, all of a sudden it was like dishes had no charge on them. Now, dishes are still not the top of my list of things to do, but I do them. They get done. I don't have that same charge inside about like fucking fuck you. I'm just more like, dishes. And then for me, I look at the sink and when I don't want it to be gross, I do the dishes. So so that's an example of one kind of issue that I had that required energy healing for me to get into right relationship with dishes. And one thing where I just needed to accept I'm just not going to be a sweeper. I'm not a sweeper kind of lady. I want another person to sweep. I'm not sweeping. I'm not. Okay. So acceptance is is a form of becoming loving toward yourself. Do you know how loving it is for me to honor my non-willingness to sweep? That is such a loving act I do for myself. I don't want to sweep. I'll make some more money. You know why? The way I make money is I help people change their souls. That's actually quite fulfilling for me. So, why not spend an extra hour helping somebody heal their soul and know God better so that my floor can be clean? That is a trade I'm willing to make. I am in acceptance of where my priorities are. So, when you start to think about somebody else in your life whose behavior you're not in acceptance of, usually acceptance and forgiveness have like some kind of dynamic or some kind of relationship going on. You might look at and ask yourself, where am I in total judgment of or resistance to this person's behavior? Now, let's go back to the example of I have a partner and he lives in my house. I'm making this up. This is not true. And he never fucking sweeps and I sweep every time. Okay, let's say that's what's happening. At a certain point, I'm going to have to accept this bitch doesn't sweep. He does not want to do any fucking sweeping. So I've got to free my heart from the resentment at him for doing so. If I free my heart from the resentment of him not doing so, I'm gonna suddenly have a lightning that happens in my heart, and I'm gonna go, "Aw, he's like a dude that doesn't sweep." His not sweeping has nothing to do with me. It's not actually an affront to me. He's not sweeping at me. Does that sentence grammatically make any sense? His not sweeping is not at me. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with him and his life and his childhood, and who the fuck knows what his not sweeping has to do with. So, if I could get to where I'm in acceptance with him because I've changed the state of my heart, we're going to talk about the mechanics of that in 1 second. All of a sudden, there's less stress around and less resistance to him. Now I'm in acceptance. He doesn't sweep. Now, let's be very clear. Just because I'm in acceptance that you don't sweep, like I said before, doesn't mean I can stay married to you if you don't sweep. Compatibility is different from acceptance. Compatibility is also different from forgiveness. So I can get to a place where I totally accept he can't sweep. I've totally forgiven him. My heart is open. I love him and adore him and look at him over there and go, look at him being a non-sweeper. He's so cute. But also I can't live with that. So he has to move out. But I love him. My heart is open to him. I love him, but I can't live with a non-sweeper. It just doesn't work for me. That kind of thing can happen. So we need to be careful not to confuse forgiveness or acceptance with, now that means I have to be okay with this person in my life, with this person in my life in a particular shape or relational dynamic, with having this person in my life in the way they want to be in my life. There's many options still available to me, even if I forgive and accept him for being exactly who he is. 9 times out of 10, however, when we forgive someone and accept them for who they are and find a workaround, find a way to get the kitchen swept. If he's not going to do it and you're not going to do it, there's always a way. Somebody will sweep your kitchen. Maybe you do a trade with your neighbor and you watch their dog on Saturday and they sweep your kitchen on Sunday. Maybe you hire a lady and she just sweeps the kitchen. There's many ways to solve a kitchen sweeping problem. This reminds me of a story. A dear friend of mine who I used to hang out with in the 12-step programs, he said he almost got divorced a couple times over dishes. So like he would cook dinner and his wife wouldn't put the dishes in the dishwasher after. She'd want him to, or she'd cook and he wouldn't put them in and nobody wanted to do the dishes and they kept having fights over the dishes. Oh no, I remember, sorry, it was before they had a dishwasher. So they had to hand wash all the dishes. Anyway, they went to therapy about it. And the therapist said they did like a bunch of sessions and they're doing deep trauma work around it. And one day the therapist goes, I think I have the solution. You need a dishwasher. And they got a dishwasher and then it became easy. One of them would cook, the other one would put the things in the dishwasher. No more divorce. Because they both realized they both hated scrubbing food off of dishes. So the solution to that one was easy. Nobody should scrub food off dishes then. You should put it in a dishwasher. The dishwasher can do the scrubbing. And then they both were like, I don't hate you anymore. But let's break that apart. They both came to acceptance of themselves and one another's limitations. I'm not going to wash them fucking dishes in the sink. I hate it. You're not going to wash them dishes in the sink. You hate it. What the fuck do we do? They went to therapy. Thank God this therapist was good enough to say, get a dishwasher. Problem solved. Hallelujah. Okay. So acceptance and forgiveness are good friends, and they both have to do with a state of being in the heart. They both have to do with whether there is a wall up in your heart or not. When really difficult shit happens, let's say you're in a romantic relationship and somebody really breaks your heart and they leave you out of nowhere and they fuck you over and they sleep with your best friend, whatever, right? And you're really brokenhearted and you're really mad. For a long time, you're probably not going to want to do forgiveness work because you just need to be mad and hurt for a while. And that is appropriate. At a certain point, however, you may find that the mad and the hurt are not going away, and you really want to be done being mad and hurt. you guys all know what I'm talking about, right? When you reach that point where you're just like, great, I've done mad and hurt for a while. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'd like to be not mad anymore. That's the point at which you might start to do some forgiveness work. But remember, when we do forgiveness work, we're not saying it's okay that you broke my heart. It's okay that you cheated on me. It's okay that it happened. We're not saying that. Forgiveness is the state that your heart enters when it says, I release you from, uh, it's almost like I release you from holding you at bay. I release you from needing to punish you energetically in my heart. I forgive you. You did a thing that caused me harm, and I forgive you for that. It doesn't mean the harm isn't there. And it doesn't mean you're now welcome back into my house. You know, if you cheated on me and broke my heart a couple times, like probably you can't come back because I don't trust you. Now that's a whole other conversation about trust that we could have. We'll have another Katie Church about trust sometime, because sometimes you can rebuild trust, but sometimes not. And that's up to you. And it depends on the individuals. But the point is, the forgiveness work will liberate you. So let's talk about the mechanics of it. Here you are, jilted, brokenhearted in your house, hurt, angry, sad, unsure about why it happened, which, by the way, when you're confused about why something happened, 9 times out of 10, what's really going on is you have so much self-judgment about what happened. Like you've decided on some level, he or she or they left you because there's something wrong with you. So part of why we hold resentment against other people is because when people do things that makes us not able to forgive them or not want to forgive them, it's because they've activated something in us that was already there. I'm going to have to, let me give a specific example from my own life because it's getting too abstract for me to even track my own fake examples. So real example. Okay, we'll talk about very early childhood abuse. I won't get into the details of it so as to spare folks from the craziness of the narrative. But I do want to say, when I was a baby, a man did a very, very bad thing to the baby body. Okay. Years later, I remembered it. I discovered it. I knew who the man was. And because I'm me, I went immediately to work on finding where the trauma was it was many places in my body, clearing the trauma out, rebuilding the structure of my spiritual body because it was shattered by this particular kind of trauma. Like I was broken in a lot of places. Healing what was shattered and broken, taking his toxic energy out of my field. And while doing all of that, I was praying for him to have everything that I desire in my life. Why would I do that for somebody who abused a baby body? Because I so badly hate pain and so badly don't want unnecessary suffering in my own life that I was happy to go to work on forgiving this guy because I want to be free. So I started, this is a tool that was given that I would love for you to please leave today with this tool. And I'm going to give a bunch of tools on this topic right now. I started to pray to the universe for him to have everything I want. So I'd be like, I want a big, beautiful house. I hope, let's call him, I'm going to make up a name, Frederick. That's terrible because I have friends named Frederick. Let's call him Baskin. It's not a real name. Universe, and I would say from my heart with sincerity, very important, the sincerity piece, please give Baskin a big, beautiful house on a hill with a sweeping view of the ocean. God, universe, please give Baskin close friendships with people he really likes and trusts. God, universe, please give Baskin like a sense of joy and pleasure in his work. Now, here's what would happen. This guy like abused me as an infant in a real fucked up way. Okay. When you start to pray for someone else to have what you want, it's the most generous thing you can do for a person, by the way. in the spiritual realm, when you start to do that, what comes up in your heart is every bit of the part of you that goes, no, fuck that guy. Or, ow, it hurts to think of him having what he wants, given all the pain he's caused for me and given how many things I don't get to have because I'm over here busy healing my shit that he caused. I don't have a house on a hill. I'm sitting in my apartment trying to heal, back in the day, trying to heal the pain that this fucker caused. Now I'm asking for the universe to give him what I want. It brings all that rage up when you start to pray for that person to have what you want. But right behind it is all the grief. The real answer, you guys, and the key to every healing piece in life, anything you want to heal, we talked about this in class today, just become willing to grieve the sorrow that the original incident created in your heart. When I start to pray for Baskin to have everything I desire, I feel all this sadness and this hurt and this pain in my heart from my not having what I'm asking him to have. And then I become aware, wow, that's there. That energy of pain is there. And then I can ask the divine to help me with that pain. So my next task mechanically is to sit into and feel into my heart in all the places that go, fuck that guy, and all the places that go, I never got to have this, all the sorrow, all the rage, all the grief. It's right up by my praying for him. The praying for him brings it all up. Then I get to sit with that energy and I get to say to the divine, please take from me this pain. Please help me cry into this. Please let this release through the tears that come out of my eyes. Do you guys understand that every time you cry, you are processing something dense and heavy into something light and loose? Crying is your best friend on the freaking spiritual path. So many people say, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please don't be sorry. Please cry. Cry, 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 all day cry. Grieving is how you purify the heart. Grieving is how you liberate yourself from your anger at the people you're angry at. Whenever we are angry at someone else for any old anything, there is somewhere in us that has fear or grief. And your job mechanically is to find the fear or grief that is under that anger. So you might ask, how, Katie, do I find the fear or grief that is under that anger? A great way to start is start with the anger. Be fucking mad. Feel the energy of that mad. And then you're going to need to sincerely, from the center of your heart, ask the divine to meet you in the center of that mad. You're going to need to say to the universe, please help me release this mad. Help me release this anger. Even as I say it, the channel in the back of my neck starts to open. That's what when my head does this, it's my channel opening. And I'm just by saying this, I'm praying, and the universe is delivering love and light to my heart right now for anything I happen to be mad about in this moment. Now, another thing that people misunderstand about forgiveness is, and about about states of consciousness in the heart, is that God or the universe or consciousness does not expect us to be constantly in a state of constant, perfect forgiveness. That's why we have a relationship with the divine. We have a relationship with the divine such that when I'm mad at someone, anytime I get mad, I'm not supposed to never get mad. That would be being not human. When I get mad and I'm sick of being mad, if the mad anger can't be resolved relationally for any reason, maybe the person's not there, maybe it's not time to have a talk yet, maybe it's not a thing that can be resolved relationally. These are moments where I have an opportunity to say to the universe, hey, I'm really mad. Could you help me process this mad? I would like to be free of this anger. Help me feel it and help me find the vulnerability that is behind it. 100% of the time, when you have a resentment or anger at someone, there is a vulnerability that is usually sadness and grief or fear behind it. So the way through is to feel into the mad, to get to the sad or the fear, feel into the sad or the fear, and get past that. Now, if you're of a Buddhist persuasion, let's say, you're going to be somebody who does a lot of sitting with things. I'm going to sit with that. I'm going to sit into my mat and sit and be there and sit. Are you guys aware that just by being present to an energy in your body, just sitting with something, feeling into it, your presence is the light of the divine. It is conscious awareness. You connecting with a quote, quote, negative feeling, that is you bringing love to that feeling. Think about it this way. Your partner is walking through the house and they're not looking at you and they're not looking at you. And then you go, babe, and they look at you. All of a sudden you're in connection and that opens your heart and you feel connected to them. It's the same with the divine. When you, with your conscious intention and attention, place your intention and attention on your heart in the place that is mad, that attention connects you with that part of you that is mad. And sometimes a part that is mad, all it needs is somebody to pay attention to it so that it feels seen and heard. When it feels seen and heard, it's going to express all of its feelings, maybe through crying, maybe through yelling, maybe through who knows. And before you know it, it's not going to be so mad. So when we need to forgive someone because we want to be free, the first step is we have to find the place in our heart that is not in forgiveness and stop fucking judging it. I should be forgiving them. Well, you're not yet. Get real. Feel into the place that says, no, I'm not fucking forgiving that guy. Sometimes you guys, you got to dig around in there. I've spent many minutes in a row sometimes finding, where is the hate? Where is the resentment? Where is the resistance? Where is the lack of acceptance in my heart? It's in the heart, I promise. Where though? I got to find it. And once I find it, I can sit with it if I'm of a Buddhist persuasion. If I'm of a light worker persuasion, I'm still going to have to sit with it. But then I'm going to do my connecting to the light and I'm going to ask the light to meet me there. The light is going to come into that place where I'm mad. It's going to start to process it through. I'll probably cry or express or yell or something. Then it's going to turn into fear or sadness. Then I'm going to cry some more and say some words or not. And then I'm going to be done. And all of a sudden, what am I going to be left with? A soft heart in relationship to the person I had no forgiveness of moments before. What we're looking for in the forgiveness journey is soft-heartedness. Because remember what we started with today, what is the thing that disconnects you from source the most, the easiest, the most effectively? What is the thing that separates you from the people in your life the most effectively? Hard-heartedness. What creates hard-heartedness? Lack of acceptance, lack of forgiveness, judgment, expectation. They all create hard-heartedness and separation. Sometimes I'll talk a little bit more about this. Sometimes when I forgive somebody for something I'm not in forgiveness of, all of a sudden the thing I was so upset about, the sweeping, for example, suddenly doesn't seem like a very big fucking deal. Suddenly I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't get swept. I'll sweep it. Or I won't. Because 9 times out of 10, when we're mad about a thing and not in forgiveness of another person for that thing, it's not actually the thing that we're mad about. We're mad because we feel disrespected. We're mad because we feel dishonored. We're mad because we feel unheard and unseen. We're mad because we feel alone. We're mad because we feel like we have to do it all by ourselves. We're mad for some emotional reason that isn't about the sweeping. So if oftentimes for me in my spiritual process of getting with the divine and going like, I'm so mad at this person, please get me to forgiveness. Help me feel my mad so I can get to sad or fear. Help me feel my sad or fear so I can get to freedom. When I get back to freedom, freedom inherently is connection with source. Freedom inherently is soft-heartedness. So when I have connection to source and soft-heartedness, who the fuck cares about the swept kitchen? All of a sudden my heart is swept. My heart is soft, so I want to connect with my partner. And I'm just going to sit on the couch and be like, "You're cute," and then we're going to make out and it's going to be great. But this all of this, you guys, requires honesty with self. So, like I said when I started, sometimes you forgive a person, but you still need them to sweep the kitchen. So you're not mad anymore, but it's a need you have. So you need them to do that. Other times you forgive them and all of a sudden you don't even care about the fucking kitchen. You're going to have to take it one moment at a time, on a case by case basis, on an incident by incident, moment by moment basis, because that's how reality works. There are no rules that are like general that apply to all situations at all times. So I think last thing I want to say, and then I'd love to hear if anybody has any questions. Forgiveness is a state of the heart. Acceptance is a state of the heart. They both are open-hearted states. They both are allowing states. They both are receiving, receptive, gentle states. So when you're not in forgiveness and you're not in acceptance, that means it's time to get with your heart. Sit there, feel the walls of defense that have been built between you and the other person or between you and yourself, and get the light, whether you do that through just consciously attending to it in your Buddhist way, or whether you do it through divine light transmission or chanting, however you connect with source, ask it to meet you in that place where the hard-heartedness is. Let that lead to the breakdown and the tears. And before you know it, you'll find yourself in forgiveness and acceptance. All of this requires that we be honest with ourselves and that we be willing to change. It also requires, you'll notice, that you be willing to feel uncomfortable. It's very comfortable to be mad and righteous. It's very comfortable to be right. Anytime I've not wanted to forgive someone, it's always, in my world, 100% of the time, because I want to be right. And there's a beautiful saying in the 12 steps that I love. They say, would you rather be right or happy? And usually my first reaction is, fuck you. Then my second reaction is, I'd rather be happy. So then I know, okay, everywhere I need to be right, that is hard-heartedness on my heart. So a really great way to work with this is ask yourself, where do you secretly really want and need to be right on this issue at hand? If you're married to being right, you have a wall on your heart and you are not in acceptance or forgiveness or allowance. You might tell yourself mentally, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. But your heart fucking isn't. Now, are you bad and wrong for wanting to be right? No. You're just a person. People like to be right. The only problem with being right is it creates hard-heartedness. And hard-heartedness creates separation from the true self, the spiritual self, the higher self. It creates separation from the divine, and it creates separation between you and the people you love. Amen. Namaste. There you have it. Boom. Questions. Please throw me some how do I forgive my uncle questions. Throw me anything you have in response to this in the chat. Please, let's have some really real questions up in the chat right now as you guys are ready and able. Getting my little settings different here. There we go. And also feel free to share just insights or anything you've discovered about forgiveness, any experiences you've had with forgiveness where something went well, maybe something where you had a little bit of success with forgiveness, but something's not fully resolved. Please feel free to be as specific and personal about your own life as possible, or as general and abstract as you like. It's all welcome here. Throw your questions or comments into the chitty chat, please. All right, let's see. Cassie, nice to see you. Do I tell the person I forgive them or keep it in my heart? Really good question. That depends on the situation. So, sometimes the most obnoxious thing you can do to someone is knock on their door on a Tuesday morning and be like, hello, I have forgiven you. Have a good day. That makes you a douchebag. Not that I think you would do that, Cassie, but just to make the point. Um, where it's relevant is when somebody's currently in your life and they can feel that you are separated from them. They can feel that wall on your heart, and you go away into another room and you cry and process and release, and then you forgive them and you come back in the room. I promise you they can feel it already. And in that case, they probably can feel it, but that's when you're in a direct relationship with someone, that's a good time to say, like, I'm sorry, I was really holding resentment against you, or I was keeping you out of my heart, but I forgive you and it's okay. I still need you to do blah, blah, and blah, but I do forgive you and I'm sorry. But if it's like somebody from your past who was, I'm not calling up my abuser from childhood and being like, hey, buddy, FYI, I forgive you. That's not necessary in the journey. It's only necessary if you have a relationship that you want to maintain. Does that make sense, Cassie? And if you have further questions about that and want to be a little more specific, I'm happy to hear them and take those questions. Please share. All right, Margaret says, did you find you'd experience unforgiveness again after you found forgiveness for a person? That's a great question. Like, did you have to do it over and over? Okay, I'm so glad, Cassie. I'm glad. Okay, no, and that's a great question, Margaret, because here's what I have found. Here's where I can say yes to that. I can say that some people that I've worked on forgiveness with, I'll tell you specifically, my mother, very complicated, difficult relationship with her. We don't communicate. I don't talk with her because she's too toxic for me in my boundaries in my life to have in my life. And a lot of people, that makes them feel sad. It was the most liberating, wonderful moment of my life, frankly. And this is after years and years of trying and working in therapy, and she and I together and we did all the things. And then I became aware and realized what acceptance was. Oh, she's never changing. Cool. I'm out. With her, there were layers of forgiveness. So I would do a layer of forgiveness, and it would be the front part of my heart maybe would release a bit of it, and I would cry, and then I would find another layer and another layer and another layer. But once you've really gotten through all the layers of that's like really forgiving someone, it never comes back. You may have, and this is a great question, Margaret, too, because this is for everybody. People think that when you forgive someone, you never have intensity or frustration or anger about the thing they did. That's not true. For example, the guy who abused me when I was an infant, that's fucked up. It's fucked up to do. I don't like that he did that. I don't think it's, you know what I mean? I'm like, ew. But my heart is soft to him now because I went through all the layers of forgiveness. And frankly, if I met him today, I'd feel all the toxicity in his system immediately, and I'd feel bad for him, and I'd feel like I want to keep him away from me because his energy is so icky. But I'm not mad at him. I'm not resentful anymore. I have forgiven him. He's an injured guy who I'd like him to stay away from me because that injury feels icky in my field, but not because there's any more forgiveness to do. So there can be layers of forgiveness where I'm not done with it, but once you get all the way through all the layers of the heart, it doesn't come back, has been my experience. Daria says, already cried and released. Oh, yay. As you were talking, I'm so glad to hear that, Daria. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, God. Whew. Yeah, there was a lot of actual light coming through when I was talking. Like every time my head does this, it's the channel opening and light is blowing through. So I'm happy for you. I'm so glad. If you have anything you want to share about it, please do. And I see you did. So let me get to that. Doc Bill says, when is leaving a situation person the best way to deal with an incompatible dynamic that persists? Yeah, it's a great question. I would have to know the specifics of the situation, Bill, in order to speak intelligently about it. A short thing I could give as in a general way, because that is such a specific thing. When you finally decide to like, okay, we are incompatible and cannot be around each other, and this does not work for me. It's so, what's the word I want? The opposite of objective, subjective, and depends on the individual and what your needs are and what you can tolerate, that I would have to know the exact details of the individual situation in order to speak to it. But the bottom line is, when you get to a place where you're like, I forgive them, I'm not in judgment of them for being this way, and I hate living this way. Like, I'm really unhappy living this way or working this way, whatever the case, if it's a coworker, I'm really unhappy with this, and it doesn't work, and I feel frustrated all the time. Let's say you're a generator or a manifesting generator in human design. If you're feeling frustrated all the time, you've tried the communication, you've set boundaries, you've asked for your needs to get met, you've had an open-hearted talk, you've forgiven them, but for real, Bill, you've forgiven them for real, all the way through all the layers of the heart. They've forgiven you. You've had all the talks, and still the dynamic doesn't work. That's when you got to go. So, what does doesn't work mean? That's when you have to give me a specific situation so I can feedback on it. It's too abstract otherwise. I hope that's helpful. And let me know if you have further questions on that. Let's see. Carrie Page says, hi, Carrie Page. No, okay. Being right sometimes feels comforting for some reason. Absolutely. I know it is a false sense of comfort, but of course it does. Of course it does. Of course. Here's, when it feels really comforting to be right, chances are good somebody made you really wrong a lot when you were young. So finally having a moment where you fucking for 1 second get to feel right, it's really comforting. Totally. The question is, does that comfort come at a cost that you're not okay with? And, sometimes, Carrie, we have to be merciful with ourselves and we have to be patient with the journey. In other words, there have been times where in that, like when I was talking with Margaret about healing getting through the layers of forgiveness with my mother, periods of years where I was like, I did a certain amount of healing, forgiveness work with her. I'm okay right now being fucking pissed and being right about how fucked she is. I'm okay with it because I needed some time for the pendulum to swing in that direction. Remember that the universe teaches us in contrasts. It's how we grow. We grow by swinging from polarity to polarity to polarity, back and forth until we're at equanimity at the middle. So when somebody has you under their thumb and you're disempowered and you're wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong forever, you may need to be right for a while. You may need to be like, fuck that bitch for a while. It does feel comforting. And then eventually there comes a point where, like I've said all day here, fuck that bitch it has so many walls up in your heart, and the walls start to chip away at you and they make you sick and they make you miserable. That's when it's time to go to work on those walls and get into deeper layers of forgiveness, but only when you're ready. So I hope that helps, Carrie, and makes some sense. Of course it feels comforting, particularly when you've never been able to be right. Okay, good. I'm glad that answered a question, Daria. What is it you don't want them in your life after you forgive them because you know they'll do the same behavior? Okay, good. I'm glad that answered the question. Let me know if you have further questions, Daria. Rahima's River. Is the heart the same as the G center? Oh, that's a really good question. I'm trying to get how a defined G center plays into forgiveness and how to work it. Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, I've been sitting with this one too a lot lately. I don't think so. I think the heart is more connected to the ego. We're talking, by the way, you guys, human design language. So the ego heart center in human design is more connected to what I'm talking about when I talk about the spiritual heart and bringing light to the heart. The G center is more about a sense of self, which personally I associate with the third chakra a bit more. And that reads, that's a big yes. When my head goes left, it's a yes. So that's what I get on that, Rahima. And let's continue to explore that together because I think we're all learning about that right now. All of us in consciousness who are sitting with the worlds of energy healing as related to the worlds of human design. So that's what I think. But I will speak to this. Whether you're defined in the ego or open in the ego, it doesn't matter. You can still work with being open-hearted. Defined ego people just have an ability to commit. They have this kind of like, I said I'm doing this thing, not said, but like, I want to do this thing and it's happening. And like, I'm willful about it. Nothing's getting in the way of this. But you can be open-hearted while you're willful. I've been determined as fuck about some stuff in my life and very open-hearted while I did it. So it's a paradox again. And it's like two energies coexisting. Like, I'll give you an example. I play with this a lot when I'm doing shows. I'm really interested in it as a performer. Like, I just did this new solo show. Very proud of myself, bitches. Yeah. June 4th here in Beacon, New York. No big deal. The whole time I gave myself this task of I'm gonna be, I'm gonna play the moments that need to be played. I'm gonna be very alive and present in the moment, but I'm gonna spend this whole time with my barriers entirely down and my heart wide open. So that's an example of like, I got to hold the room and I got to maintain potency in that room to pull everybody's focus. And I got to tell an engaging story that keeps everybody's attention with my heart open. So that's the will and the heart collaborating. I hope that's helpful, Rahima. Let me know if you have more on that. Let's see here. Jennifer Garcia. Yeah, bitches. Let me see if I missed anything above that. Again, bingo. Yay, bingo. We like it. Facebook user Ray says, oh, wow. Yes, being made wrong when young really locks me into feeling safe when I feel right. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Jennifer, one of the people I need to forgive, I just can't be around energetically. Soft-heartedness might make me soften to them, but oh, you're answering. It's okay to say fuck them until I'm ready. 100%. Also, let's be real. Let's be really real. This is something I already said, but I want to say it in a different way because maybe we can hear it differently now. I got very soft-hearted toward my mother's heart and her soul. I'm very soft-hearted towards it now. I'm so soft-hearted that she's even more unsafe for me to be around now. Take that one in. In other words, when you get to actual forgiveness of a person, your heart is wide open. You are living as the open wound, which is what Jesus said we should do. And it's what Sidi al-Jamal said we should do. And it's what all the masters in the world say we are aiming for, is to live as the open-hearted wound. Defenses are a lie. They're a limitation and a lie. We want to live as the open wound. So now that I'm in forgiveness of this woman who birthed me, who calls herself my mother, I'm wide open. So if she comes in my field with her sociopathy, that's a dangerous place for me. So I don't hang out with her. But it's also not a fuck her. It's a boundary. It's a no thanks. You stay over there because that's going to hurt my wide open heart. And I don't hurt my heart anymore. I'm in acceptance of myself as being the wide open wound. Why am I going to bring someone in my field who hurts my heart? Okay. Does that make sense? Questions on that, Jennifer? Thank you for that question. It's a great thing. Carrie, yes, there is a price. I hear you. Totally get it. Christina, right? Right? Jennifer, P.S. Soft-heartedness. I love the idea. It was a good visual key. I'm glad. Daria, feels good to have healthy boundaries and value myself. For real. It's essential to have healthy boundaries and value ourselves. Essential. Rahima, neat. I love you. Yes, helpful. I've got define G and open ego. Yeah, same here, by the way. Neat to consider ego in human design as heart in Sufi speak. Totally get it. My pleasure. Yes, my pleasure, you guys. Really great questions. Thank you so much for being here. This is so fun to talk with you. Forgiveness of self. Yes, let's wrap up on this topic for tonight. That's like the thing that all humans need. Jennifer says, any wisdom on forgiveness of self? Yes, it's 100% the same thing I've been saying about forgiveness of the other. You just have to do it for the self. So let's talk through the mechanics one more time. You've got to say to yourself, what am I not in forgiveness of myself about? Let me think of one. Gosh, where am I not in forgiveness of me? Well, I'll do one I was not in forgiveness of myself about recently. I went through a real bout of I'm so bad at like dates and times, and I screw schedules up in times. And I noticed some self-judgment coming up around it. I was in judgment of myself for being bad at dates and times. I was fucking up with all you guys and scheduling and emails and recording things and just like, And so then I was like being like, Katie, you shitty fucking Katie, mean to myself. So what I do is I find the place in my heart where I'm mad at myself and not in forgiveness of myself. And I go, I feel that wall. Divine, will you help meet me in that wall? The divine softens the wall. All of a sudden I'm crying because I feel actual guilt and remorse about it. By the way, this brings up a really great topic. We should do a whole Katie Church on this, but guilt and remorse are sometimes appropriate. I know there's this popular thing in spiritual worlds where it's like guilt is always a lie. No. Sometimes I feel guilt and remorse because I've done something that isn't correct and I need to make amends. That's what that emotion is for, is to show us when we need to make amends. Other times guilt comes up and it's a lie. It's a delusion. That is a thing that occurs. Okay. So there I am, in judgment of myself, not forgiving myself for being bad at dates and times. I sit with the energy of the wall in the heart, Jennifer. That's the key. I bring the light there. The light forgives me. I'm crying. I have remorse for all the clients who got fucked over with my schedule thing. So I make amends. Hey, I'm so sorry I screwed that up. I thank you for your patience. And they go, no problem. Because it was never really an issue for them. It's an issue for me with me. So the remorse and guilt gets dealt with by my owning up and naming it and apologizing in real time with humans relationally. But with myself, the peace comes just from my connection with the divine, bringing the light and the love to the place that's like, fuck you, Katie, for making mistakes. What if you guys, we could live our lives from, oof, I made a mistake. Oh, how can I love myself despite the mistake or with the mistake or because of the mistake? What if you could love yourself 100% of the time? That's what God wants for us. That's what the divine is after. That's what conscious awareness is heading us towards. You never have to resent, judge, or separate from yourself again. Ever. The lie that we function from is that I have to judge myself into better behavior. Oh, if I don't judge myself, then I'll just keep making the same time mistake. Incorrect. The more forgiveness I bring to myself for the time mistake, the easier it is for me to apologize to you when I make a time mistake. Then I can email you and go, Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I screwed that up. Can we try a different time? And you go, no problem. And then we do it. And then I'm like, thank you. And it's because I was nice with me. If I'm mean with me and I have a wall up toward me and I'm not in forgiveness of me, I'm probably going to be bitchy to you because I've got a wall up. And that is the perfect note to end on for tonight. Any wall that goes up, you guys, in the heart between yourself and yourself becomes a wall between yourself and God, between yourself and conscious awareness, and between yourself and everybody you're interacting with. People feel your walls, no matter how politely you behave on top of them. No matter what polite words you say from your face holes, if you're in not forgiveness or separation in your heart, people feel it. And that's just the law of the universe. That's just how energy works. I adore you. Thank you guys so much. Please listen to All the Answers podcast. It's free. We do such cool woo-woo shit on there. Come on. It's great. Listen to us. Tell your friends, will ya? We're trying to grow. We need more listeners. Tell your friends. All the Answers. Free. Everywhere you get podcasts. Let's see. All the classes have all the people in it. You could still hop into writing and alignment if you're a writer and need a writing class. God, I love that class. That's tomorrow. There's a day class and an evening class on Thursdays. Hop in and join us for that if you're writing anything. We use an audio track that's meditative. Oops. We use an audio track that's meditative to get us out of our own way. And it's an incredible practice and you'll love it. We bring spirituality to writing and it's a very deep group and we go very deep with the work. So I love you guys so much. Take good care. Have a good one. Now you can end it. Leslie, you're the best.